My question's for Olivia, actually, putting you on the spot. So I'm very interested in reading the paper that is related to the topic you were talking about. But and this is just my own sort of lack of knowledge on this particular. So when you were looking at differentiations in like the wealth accumulation and relating that to education level, um, is there some sense, and certainly you probably looked at this, but that there's obviously just this baseline, right? So if you tend to have higher incomes related to education level, isn't there some sort of baseline wealth accumulation? If you have low education and low income over the course of your life, you just don't have the opportunity to accumulate. There's a baseline cost to life, right? And we all make larger baseline costs to life over the course of our life if we accumulate more, but there's still a larger opportunity for cuts, right? There's just sort of this minimum cost of life. So how does that factor in? Because certainly it seems that it could be more. There's higher opportunity for exponential growth with higher income because you have places you are padding your life and you can cut them easier than someone that has a lower income stream. And so how does that play into this concept of financial literacy really impacted that?
Okay. Thanks a lot for the question. I don't quite know how to think about the quote unquote basic cost of life, since we know that there are very different living standards across the country. It costs more to live in a very hot zone like Washington D.C. or a very cold zone and so on. I think though that what at least what got me going on this research was some really interesting work that Jim Smith did, maybe with David Weiss, looking at differences in wealth accumulation for people that had the exact same lifetime income. That is, you can see, take a low-income person, many of them who are immigrants, who come to the U.S., scrimp and save, and their children end up doctors or lawyers or whatever. And then other folks with the same lifetime income don't save anything. So there's clearly some differences, even for people who are very low income, in terms of the eventual success that they can, financial success that they can point to. So I think it's really trying to explain the inequalities in wealth over the lifetime and trying to understand how much of that inequality could be the result of things people do that motivated what we're getting at.
Sol Carbonell with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. The question is also for Olivia, actually, and I'm still thinking about a point that you made in the slides early in the beginning that said policies that shift the responsibility to consumers could be harmful, and I think that's a very important point. So I guess I'm wondering if you could speak about the implications of your research for mandating financial education in the schools. So what do you think what are the implications for this type of policy? Thank you.
Maybe Anna wants to speak to it. Anna feels repressed. So, one of the really fascinating debates around Washington and everywhere else, I think, these days is how much should we mandate, how much should we nudge, how much should we push, and how much should we educate? And I think my view, and I would suspect Anna would agree, though she'll make her own point, is that it's not either or. It's probably both. In other words, my view is that if you structure a default such that everybody has to, automatically enroll or invest in target date funds or whatever it is that we're doing these days, that'll probably work for a lot of people a lot of the time. But if there's a change in the environment and people all of a sudden are presented with a set of circumstances that are alien to them, they may respond in very unpredictable ways. So my view is that a certain amount of basic financial literacy can go a long way across a wide variety of behaviors that can help you pay your credit cards on time. They can help you take out a better mortgage, that's less expensive and so on. Defaults may work in particular instances, but they don't prepare people to deal with the unknown in the future. Having said all that, in some other work Anna and I have done, we've also found that young adults who went to high school in states that mandated financial literacy knew more when they were in their 20s and 30s. They knew more, they planned more, they saved more, but particularly in the states that had spent above average on education. In other words, it's probably not sufficient to have the football coach teach you how to balance your checkbook. You probably need to learn more than that. So I think there's a role for both.
The model recognizes the fact that there are costs of financial literacy, and that in a world of individual responsibility, all of this is decentralized and everybody's paying the cost. So if you actually, in a sense, support or subsidize that cost, you can actually get great benefit. So that's what the models try to say here. One more quick question, Jean, and then we go for the coffee.
I'm going to give Olivia a break. Thank you. So a comment and then just I guess a thought provoker. And that is, I understand your concern about the fact that the data have not been used very much in publications. First of all, we all know that there's a production timeline in research and so on. The other thing is I would just highlight the history of the Survey of Consumer Finances at the Fed, and it took a while for publications and things to catch on there. So I would encourage you to take heart. The other thing is I would ask you to talk to colleagues around the country who may not have published off of your data, but who have used it in their own grant writing. I know a lot of the cooperative extension specialists around the country have used their own state data to promote financial education in their states, to get local grants from community development organizations. And so in some ways, your data have become part of the recipe for further research and further activity that's going on, even though it may not show up in the Journal of Consumer Affairs or something like that. Are you going to do state by state data again in 2012?
Just a quick comment back. Well, it's heartening to hear that some of these surveys take a little while to get going, and we do think about ways that we can reach out to people that aren't publishing, but sometimes it's hard to actually find out who's doing that work and who has it in a proposal. So if anybody has any ideas or people that are using the data, please let us know, because we are trying to get a list of who's using it. We're also working with the Journal of Consumer Affairs to publish an article in either the spring or summer edition on the National Financial Capability Study. So we hope that also maybe brings some people out of the weeds and kind of say, oh, we've been working with the data too. So hopefully you're right. It just takes some time to catch on, and we appreciate everybody's input over the last couple months.
Okay, thank you very much.